Hey family, it's your girl, Boss B, and welcome to the Ask a Bee Show, the place where your letters come to life. Every day people write in with real questions about life, love, and everything in between. And together we find hope, healing, and a whole lot of honesty. Because here on Ask a Bee, we don't just talk about problems, we talk about possibilities. So grab your tea, open your heart, and let's buzz into today's letters right here on the Ask a Bee Show. How do you do? All right, y'all. Quick little note before we move into today's show. Um, Other than, hey, come join our panels right there in the ticker, any email you could ever need. I might at some time cut out. I'm okay. Don't panic. It's just, well, Ozzy, I told him he needed to stay inside. It's about to come turd floater. And y'all, I may have to air up the air mattress and go rescue him if he steps out the front door. Just saying, we got weather today, okay? So welcome back. Welcome back. I'm so happy you're here. Listen, today's show is, I want to try to make it a little bit different because this time of year, people like to take a little bit of advantage of you, especially when they know that you're good at what you do, right? Like how good I am at advertising things, like the iron sharpening iron universe that is so freaking spectacular, y'all. Get to it. Uh-huh. Now then, there's a very specific kind of exhaustion, okay, that really settles into your bones when you've spent years, maybe even decades, right, being the person who says yes before you even think about it. You know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? That's why today we're going all out. Yep. All right. That that automatic pressure, no problem. Sure. Even when it is a problem, that yeah, I can help even when you don't really have the energy to help yourself. That of course, even when your whole spirit is screaming for a break, there's always a yes behind it, correct? And the worst part, half the people half the people you do it for don't even notice the weight you're carrying. Listen, they don't notice the juggling act behind the scenes. They don't notice the way you keep your world spinning, right? While helping keep everyone else's world from falling apart. They just call, ask, and expect because that's what happens when you're the strong one, the dependable one, the reliable one, right? The one who always shows up, even when no one shows up for you. And after a while, it wears you down until your guess stops being generosity and starts being survival. Now, that's why today's episode is more of a celebration, okay? A celebration of a word that we just don't use enough. And it's okay. We just don't think it's okay. And we weren't taught to honor that word, or that word comes with guilt at first, and then relief, and then peace once you finally realize you're allowed to use it. No, not a mean no, okay? Not a bitter no, not a dramatic no, just a simple, quiet, grounded, peaceful, clean no. No, it's a no protects you, okay? It can. Your sanity, your time, your emotional space. Yeah. You'd be amazed how much joy is hiding inside that word. Now, joy, you don't even realize you've been starving absolutely for, I don't know, because you've spent so long people pleasing. Okay. I tend to do this a little bit myself, but I've started to learn how to use the word no. And you don't even remember what it feels like to choose yourself first. So, today's honey, my friends, is going to be the joy of saying no. Okay. And if you just felt that in your chest, you're not alone. Because the truth is, we don't talk about how heavy yes can become. We talk about the kindness. We talk about the generosity of it. We even talk about being there for the people we love. And all of that is beautiful, right? But somewhere in all that beautiful talk, people forgot to mention that being there for people, it doesn't mean being everyone's emergency plan, everyone's, emotional sponge or their transportation, babysitter, financial backup, therapist, cleanup crew, the holidays, you know, at times you become a mixture of all of those. You truly do. Um, but, being kind does not mean being used. Saying no doesn't mean you're selfish. In fact, some of the healthiest, happiest, strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones who learn the power of saying no without apology. They learned that self-respect doesn't grow from how much you can carry. It grows from how confidently, your confidence level and how you can put something down and walk away. And let me tell you something from experience. The first time that you say no, the very first time, you're going to feel that guilt from your toes to your head and then back again. And it's natural. Okay. You've trained for years to keep the peace by sacrificing your own. But then the person reacts. And that is when everything becomes clear. Some people will say, okay, no problem. Those people, keep them, protect them. Okay. That's real love. But others will act shocked, offended, inconvenienced for sure, and confused. Or, flat out angry. And those reactions have nothing to do with your boundaries and everything to do with their dependence on your lack of boundaries. And you'll see their true colors so fast, it might give you whiplash. And that moment, that clarity, there is joy in that too. Okay. Because suddenly you're not just drowning in confusion anymore. You're not fighting yourself, right? You're not over explaining anything. You're not questioning whether or you're asking for too much, right? You're finally seeing that the truth of the relationships around you are not what they seemed. And then when you start to reclaim your no, real joy, it'll start to creep in back into your life. You get your time back. You get peace back, right? Your energy. And you get to stop feeling obligated to fix everything and everyone. Pardon me. You stop letting people walk into your life like it's a revolving door. You stop being the emotional dumping ground. We know we all are. You stop being the automatic solution for sure. For every problem that wasn't yours to begin with. Now, in that quiet space that opens up after you say no, look, that's your space that's used to be filled with guilt, right? Chaos, maybe, a little overcommitment. That is where joy grows from breathing room, okay? From having a moment to yourself. Joy from not being buried under everyone else's expectations. Joy from rediscovering your own wants, your own needs, and, your own identity, because that's what's at stake here. This is the kind of joy that tastes like freedom. Okay. The kind that you didn't even know you were missing because life had you stretched thin for so long that, oh my gosh, that constant exhaustion, it just started to feel normal. So today, we're going to talk about boundaries in a way that makes you, well, laugh, in a way that makes you think, and in a way that maybe, just maybe, reminds you that you're allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to rest. Okay. You're allowed to be unavailable. And you're definitely allowed to protect the parts of yourself that everyone else has been draining dry. You know what? You're allowed to say no without offering a PowerPoint presentation explaining why. Even if you love to, stop. Sounds more like me. But get it in here, okay? You matter too. Your energy matters, your time, your peace, And if no one else in your life has told you this yet, I'm telling you right now, it is okay to make choices that keep you sane and safe and standing upright. And sometimes the fastest way back to happiness is a simple, unapologetic, confident no. Okay? All right, y'all. All righty. So, guess what time it is? It is that time again. It's time for today's trivia. Yep, we're heading straight into one of the most misunderstood stories in music history. You know, oh, there's my plus sister. Hi, honey. Good to see you. I had this one. This one, I had you in mind. I think you may know this one. And if you don't, you're going to be amazed at the answer because I was. It's so cool. All right, y'all. Um, you know how some songs so famous under one artist that the world forgets they didn't actually start there? Well, today's trivia is exactly one of those cases. Again, it's one of those songs that everybody thinks belongs to one face, one voice, one legend. Mm-mm. Behind the scenes, the story goes deeper, older, and way more soulful than folks realize. Okay. This is the kind of trivia that makes you stop, rewind memory lane, and ask yourself, wait, who really owned this track first? Seriously. Because sometimes the biggest voices aren't the first voices. And sometimes the world forgets who laid the foundation before Superstar came along and blasted it into history. So today's trivia is all about giving credit where credit is due. Okay. It's about the roots, the originals, the voices that sing the truth long before the spotlight hit the remix. And if you love Motown, if you love soul, if you love the kind of vocals that come from the gut, not the glitter, and then, this one is going to hit you in the chest. So get ready for this one, okay? This is one of those, oh, damn, I didn't know that moments. Again, I love this part of my show, okay? I mean, it makes music history fun, right? Now, let's get into this one. Okay. Let's see here. All right. I'm going to add this to the sage, see if we're doing good. Yay, we went up. All right, Beehive, settle in because today's trivia takes us straight into the heart of American soul, Motown, the sound that shaped generations. And if you grew up listening to vinyl on a Sunday morning, or you had parents who played oldies in the car, or you ever heard a singer that put their whole chest and story into a note, just one single note, then you already know Motown wasn't just music. It was a movement. It was the kind of movement that made you feel things before you understood the lyrics. Behind every hit was a story, a family, a struggle, a breakthrough, a voice that refused to stay small. And today's question digs right into one of those stories, that kind that gets overlooked until somebody finally brings it back to the light, right? Everybody knows Janis Joplin's first version of Piece of My Heart is very iconic. It's electric. It's the version that rock stations have played for 50 years now. But what most people don't realize is that Janice wasn't the first voice on that song, not even close. Before it turned into a rock anthem, it was pure soul, real Motown soul, sung by a woman whose voice carried the flame, or I'm sorry, the same fire, the same grit, the same emotion, but never got the spotlight that she deserved. Okay, this is the kind of trivia that makes you stop and go, wait, I never knew that. And that is why we do this music trivia right here. Pardon me, to give flowers to the ones who lit the path before anybody else stepped in, right? So, again, the question, which singer originally wrote and performed the hit song Piece of My Heart years before Janis Joplin made it famous? It's your moment to dig into that Motown memory or your grandma's record collection, or, that one little corner of music history most people don't even know exists. This is the fun part. I love this part, y'all. All righty. So now we're going to come on back from that. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're going to move right along into our funny letter. I have to have one. I got to stretch myself before I get into the deepness. I know you see that. That's my pretty cup right there. All righty. So, this is kind of the moment where we get to step into land of pure, unfiltered chaos for me. The funny letter part. And listen, if you've ever said no to the wrong person, you already know today's letter is going to hit hard. Harder than caffeine on an empty stomach, let me tell you. Because some people do not, I mean it, they do not understand what no means, right? You tell them no, and suddenly they're acting like you just canceled Christmas or unplugged their life support, basically, and threw their emotional support hamster into traffic. The way that, people react to a boundary, it's never good. And it probably should be studied by scientists too, I think. Yeah. So that's why I love these letters, though. They're not just funny. Okay. They're educational because, this is real happenings, right? They teach us exactly what kind of aerobatics people will perform when you stop being this, I don't know, unpaid Uber or therapist, bank, babysitter. Oh, I could go on. Some folks, they even turn into Shakespeare level dramatics, right? The second your generosity dries up. And the best part, you get to laugh at it. Today, anyway. And thankfully, we won't get dragged into this situation ourselves. That's the magic of Ask B. You get the relief without the consequences, right? All right, so today's funny letter. Let me tell you right now, this one is delicious. This is the kind of story that makes you feel instantly better about your own life choices. And this one has petty. I like my petty a little bit. Just not being judgmental, but I need to laugh every now and then. This has audacity. Okay. That special kind of entitlement that only appears when somebody's used to getting their way. Okay. Oh, and suddenly they don't. And because today's theme is all about the joy of saying no, honey, this letter could not be more on brand. You're gonna feel this one in your soul. So grab your drink, get comfortable. Let's dig into this one. Oh no. I mean, we're gonna be like, oh no, they didn't. And because baby, oh yes, they did. All right. I'm just putting it out there right away. Because it's kind of crazy. Alrighty then. Um, let's see here. B. I finally did it. I finally said no. And honestly, I think I triggered a family-wide emergency broadcast system because the way these people acted, you would have thought I unplugged life support. Let me explain. Yesterday, my cousin, the one who only calls when she needs to borrow something, never to check on my pulse. I got about 5 of those cousins, honey. Excuse me. Sends me a message at 6:12 in the morning. Not a good morning, not a hey girl. No, just do you have $200 I can borrow for a very important reason? First off, wait, whoa. Okay. Why? All right. So I'm still drooling on my pillow at 6:12 a.m. Second, her very important reasons historically include candles, hair extensions, makeup palettes, and once, I am not making this up, a tattoo deposit. So I replied with the boldest, bravest, most terrifying word I have ever sent. No. Just no. B, she lost it. Of course she did. Suddenly she had 47 emergencies. 47 in under 10 minutes. One message said she needed it for rent. The next one said her dog swallowed a sock. The next said she was stranded on the highway. And then she said she was at the ER. Then she was at the vet. Then she was at the church. Then somehow she was all 3 at once. Girl was astral projecting for sympathy. Oh my. Hi, boss. How you doing, boss man? Big Jack is in the house. Hi, Els. Good to see you, doll. Okay, so then she brought in backup. Her mama. Her mama's mama. Her mama's mama's cousin. All of them texting me like a Greek chorus. Why would you say no? She needs you. Don't you love family? One even said Jesus would have helped her. Oh, no, you didn't. And said Jesus also told people to stop asking him for dumb things. Oh, that's what you said. And suddenly I was blocked. Oh, okay. I like this one. Long story short, B, I said no one time, and half my family is acting like I stabbed them in with a Thanksgiving turkey knife. But guess what? My bank account is safe. My peace is intact. And my cousin's dog is apparently alive and well. I think I found my new favorite word. Oh, honey. I'm so glad you found that word. All right, now. Oh, first of all, let me just say this right out loud. Sometimes the universe sends you a letter not to test your moral compass, but to remind you that some people truly have Olympic level audacity. Elle said, I think we all have a cousin who always needs to borrow something. Amen. Amen. And I mean, all the time, right? Goodness. So the writer of this letter, baby, you know what? I don't know what vitamins they're taking, but the confidence must be 1,200 milligrams a tablet because you don't ask a grown adult to come get my kids because I overslept. Okay. Like, okay, that's a standard setting on anybody's morning routine. This is what happens when you've been the dependable one for so long. Okay. That people start thinking you're on call service. They forget you have a life. They forget you have responsibilities. They even forget you don't sit by the door waiting like Batman ready to swoop in on demand, right? The best part, okay? When you finally say no, they act like you've committed a federal crime on Thanksgiving morning. Let me break this down for you just a little bit, okay? If you oversleep, that's between you, your pillow, and your alarm clock. But the moment you drag someone else into your chaos, that's when the no turns into a full sentence with punctuation. Okay. Because let's be honest, we've all been there. Someone calls us in panic mode because they didn't set their life up correctly. And somehow we become the solution. And the look on their face when we finally hit them with a no, I actually can't do that today. Who? You'd think we told them we sold their car or their house, or, their whole spirit just leaves their body. You can see it right in front of you. They need time to reboot. Okay. Meanwhile, you're sitting there like, I simply declined your self-inflicted crisis. You will live. Okay. Here's the joy. And this is what today's theme is about, I think. When you say no to these kinds of requests, you're not being mean. Okay. You're being fair. You're setting the record straight. You're reminding them that you're a person, not a utility, not a tool. Okay. And the funniest part about that, the absolute comedy of it all. Once you say no a couple of times, they'll miraculously start figuring things out. Suddenly they can wake up on time, or remember they have a spouse, or, suddenly they discover this magic ancient invention called planning. And you get to watch this evolution from the comfort of your sofa. And watch it like it's a National Geographic documentary. Observe the human in its natural habitat, learning to solve its own problems for the first time. It's beautiful. It is. So, to the writer of this letter, I say this with total love, humor, and a sprinkle of, I don't know, seasoning. You didn't do anything wrong by saying no. Okay. In fact, you did them a favor. You taught them how to handle their own morning meltdown without dragging you into it. And if anyone tries to guilt you for protecting your time, hit them with today's magic phrase. No, but thank you for asking. It's simple. That's it. That's the move. That's the joy. Because every time you say no to someone else's chaos, you're saying yes to your own peace. Okay. That's the word of the day. There's your honey. And I promise you, that peace feels good. Absolutely. All righty. My goodness. My goodness. I hope you find that peace, because you know what? I'm probably just on the outskirts of starting that. I have said no a few times now, and I have needed to say no a few times more. But when it's our kids, it's hard. It's really hard. You don't want to tell your kid no. Even if he's an adult, you don't want to tell him no, or she. I love my kids and I want to do everything I can for them. And then, you know what? Yep, there you go. No, thank you for asking. That's right. It's hard to tell them no, especially, see, I have my first grandchild now, and I love my kids, and I don't say no because of my grandchild. Okay. It's hard on me. It is. But I'm making that choice not to say no. There are times I have said no when it came to her, like if they needed a sitter, and well, I just couldn't. I've had to say no. So I know I can, but I don't always want to. See, Els says, some people try to interrupt God's peace in you. Amen. That is so true. That is so true. And, I hate to say it, but family does that to you too. It's not just strangers or friends or acquaintances, coworkers. That's everybody. And Big Jack says, too many yeses become a crutch. Amen to that. Amen to that. That is exactly my point. Thank you, Big Jack. Because, I have 3 kids. My mama had one. So I wasn't really taught what it was like to have brothers and sisters. So that becomes even harder. And with my middle child, I thought, okay, I don't have a younger brother, I don't have a younger sister, I don't have anything like that. But I've always heard the middle child feels neglected or whatever. So there was a point in time where I was giving a little extra until I realized that it was not a good thing, and I stopped doing it that way. And that was my own fault because I thought that's what he needed. Instead, I got a little more educated, and then I implemented things that worked better and made him feel better and me feel better. And there's always a solution. You just got to find it, you know? And saying no is it's perfectly fine. And it's, you know me, I'm about self-preservation. It's not selfish. It's not at all. It's a coping mechanism, if anything, right? And sometimes you have to kick that in whether you want to or not. But you got to remember too that you're also teaching that lesson to them, that they can also say no when they need to. And I think that's the bigger honeypot of the day, right? Because not only are you teaching yourself, but you're teaching them as well. And it's important to be able to say no. It's very important because sometimes it's too much. It really is. And believe me, I'm a queen about knowing that, at least with my family and friends. You know, sometimes I take on a little too much. Sometimes I drop the ball because of it, but I've found that I'm more honest with myself about it now. And that's probably the first best step to get past that and be able to say no. Right. So, alrighty. Since Big Jack's in here, I'm just going to show you what I keep doing. See this right here? I know you're probably listening in the back. I'm showing my cup off here like yesterday or day before yesterday because it's really cool. But somebody left it in my son's car when he borrowed it, and he won't borrow it no more. Right, Ozzy? Alrighty. It's actually cool enough that I get to have some hot tea this time. Yay. Okay. It is a very nice cup, isn't it? You know what? Let me show that off just one more time. Let me see. If I get it in front of me, I can show it off quite well. See, there we go. Let me move it this way. See, is that not nice? I mean, that is magic right there is what that is. Look at that. That is magic. This makes my tea better and everything. It actually makes my tea better. It does. It tastes good. I know you sitting over there. Shut up, lady. Anyway, before I take another drink here from my cold cup, we're gonna get into our serious letter, a little more serious. I love that cup so much. All right, y'all. We've laughed, we've breathed a little, and gotten comfortable telling people no a little bit, I guess. Let's shift into something a little deeper. Because behind every boundary, behind every single moment you finally choose it yourself, there's always a story. Okay? There's always that one person, that one situation, or that one pattern that pushed you past your limit. Every single one of us has been there, okay? Stretched thin, taken advantage of, worn down, expected to give more than any human should ever have to give. Time for a Ask a B cup. I am so on board with that one. Absolutely. Now, pardon me. I shouldn't have taken 2 drinks. It's just tea, I promise. And it's, it's wild how people, they'll use your kindness like a resource. They feel they're entitled to it. They'll drain you dry, then act confused when you finally stop pouring. We do these things to ourselves too, We set ourselves up for this. We really do. Okay. What they don't realize, though, is that saying no isn't about being cold. You're not trying to be cold. It's about survival. It's about seeing the toll that something is taking on your spirit and your peace, your home, and finally choosing to protect what's left of you. Today's serious letter kind of hits that exact nerve. The moment someone finally snaps out of being the family fix it person, the emotional dumping ground, pick me, the unpaid caregiver, problem solver, reliable one, all that, the moment they realize that love shouldn't feel like a job and help, it shouldn't feel like servitude, everything will be good. But that takes forever, right? Because we're still doing it. We're still saying yes. Right? So, if you've ever been the strong one, the dependable one, the one that they always call when they've ruined everything and want you to clean it up, this letter is going to feel a little too real. So let's go ahead and get into it, and let's talk about what happens when saying yes becomes the very thing that breaks you, and what it looks like to, kind of take your power back. Now, the yes person is what we're going to call this one here. All right. B. I've reached a point where I don't even recognize myself anymore. I used to be the yes person, the dependable one, the helper, fixer, peacekeeper, and somewhere along the way, I became everyone's easiest option. What do I say? Don't be an option. Not their priority, not their appreciation, just their convenience. And the worst part is, I trained them to treat me that way. Every time I said, sure, I can do it, even when I was exhausted, every time I didn't say what I needed, every time I held their hurt because I didn't want to cause a scene, I chipped a piece of myself off and handed it over, smile included. Oh, honey. Mm-hmm. But now I'm empty, not depressed anymore. Not depressed, empty, not hopeless, empty, just used up, empty. Like I spent my whole life pouring out and suddenly realized no one has ever bothered to pour back. Amen, sis. Not because they're bad people, but because I never required it. I made it optional. I made me optional. And here's where the guilt kicks in. I'm angry. I'm angry at them. That's good. I'm angry at myself. And I'm angry that the only time people suddenly notice I'm overwhelmed is when I finally stop functioning. I don't want to explode. I don't want to shut down. I just want someone, anyone, to say, sit down, I've got this, without me having to fall apart first. But it feels like if I stop saying yes, the whole world around me will collapse. Do you live in my house? And I'm terrified to find out if I've built relationships or if I've just built dependencies. So here I am, B, asking for help because I don't know how to reclaim myself without disappointing everyone around me. I don't know how to set boundaries without feeling like I'm being selfish. And I don't know how to say no without hearing that voice in my head saying I've failed somebody again. Goodness. Okay, so how do I choose me, B, when choosing me feels like betraying everybody else? Y'all know I read these before I come on here, okay? Right? Let me tell you something. I read them a couple of times because I want to be able to pronounce everything that I'm going to have to say, right? But every single time that I read these letters, and I'll read them a couple of times, these hit hard. Okay. These hit really hard because there is so much common ground. And that just tells me, there's a lot of humans out there, a lot of humans. And we as humans really need some help, don't we? So, the thing about learning to say no is that nobody warns you how heavy it feels the first time you try to do it. People talk about boundaries like they're simple, like there's a switch inside your chest that just, you flip it one morning and suddenly you're healed and whole and, able to protect your peace. But the truth is, saying no feels like betrayal when you've spent your whole life being the dependable one, the fixer, the person who shows up even when she's exhausted or overlooked or taken for granted. You carry this fear that if you stop carrying people, they'll let go of you completely. Right? And some of them do. Not because you're wrong. Not because you're wrong. But because they never loved you outside of what you could give them. Okay? And that revelation, that's the knife. That's the cut that people don't talk about when they preach boundaries and self-care. Sometimes saying no exposes who they always were. And that hurts more than just staying tired. Right? But here's the thing nobody tells you. The moment you say no, really say it with your chest and your spirit behind it, something shifts inside you that cannot be undone. A little piece of you, it just wakes up. The part that's been buried under obligation and guilt, the need to keep the peace while nobody bothered keeping yours. That part rises slowly, like someone finally cracking open a window in a room that you've been suffocating in all this time. You start to realize that your worth it was never supposed to be measured by how many problems you solve or even how much pain you absorb quietly so other people don't have to feel discomfort. No. You start to understand that that you matter outside of your usefulness. Okay. It's not magical. It's messy and emotional and sometimes downright ugly, right? So it is transformation though, okay? And once that transformation starts, even if it's just a flicker, just teeny tiny flicker, you can't unknow it. Even on the days that you fall back into patterns, the same old patterns, that spark reminds you you deserve peace too. Okay? Something even deeper happens when you start practicing no consistently. The right people adjust. It's easy. They adjust. The right people don't punish you for protecting yourself. They don't guilt you or manipulate you or twist your exhaustion into moral failure. Okay? The right people say, I understand. Or, hey, you know what? Take your time. Or even, thank you for telling me what you need. Okay? Those responses, they're going to feel foreign at first, of course, at first, but because you're used to bracing for impact every time you advocate for yourself, it's going to hurt a little bit. But eventually, you learn that love isn't proven by sacrifice, it's proven by reciprocating. And suddenly, that boundary you were terrified to enforce becomes the filter that reveals who should have never been in your life and who was sent to stay. You stop begging for scraps. Don't beg for scraps of understanding from the people who only call when they need something, okay? You stop over explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stop shrinking because someone else benefits from you staying small. It's not love. That's not even friendship. And the last truth, this is the one we don't like, but we have to face. Sometimes the people that you have to say no to are your family, their blood, even your children. The ones you thought would always protect you, but instead became the ones who drained you the most, you know? Saying no to them doesn't make you a bad person, okay? It doesn't. You're not a bad daughter or mother or sister or friend, okay? You're not a bad anything. It makes you someone who finally realized that your mental health, your time and energy, your rest, they're not optional luxuries, okay? They are your foundation. And if your foundation is always cracked, because you're carrying everybody else's weight, come on, y'all, then you will never build anything stable for yourself. Sometimes the most loving thing that you can do for your future self and for the family you do choose is to stop setting fire to your own life to keep someone else warm. This is your answer, okay? This is a real answer. Saying no is not selfish. It's self-rescue. And anybody who gets angry at you for saving your own life was never planning on helping you to live it anyway. All right? Sorry if I sound a little heated on that one, but I can't say I just learned this one, but we all learn this one, right? I think we do. Notice how I turn that cup perfectly every time. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do that for a while, at least until I get my Ask-A-Bee cup. All right, y'all. The word no. Okay. When it's work, when it's your dreams, when it's everything you have to put on hold because you don't know how to say no, let me tell you what that does to you. Okay. That tells you no, B, don't start a YouTube just yet. No, you don't have time for that. You got all these things to do. No, I'm sorry. I'm chasing my dream. It's right here. It's become a part of a lot of other people's dreams. And that's made it one great, big, beautiful dream. So, no, thank you. I love what I do here. What I said yes to is more self-preservation than anything I said no to, right? Because I was able to say no to the things that were stopping me from doing what I wanted to do, I got online. I made that first video. And here I am. Ask-A-Bee once a day, 6 days a week. And I'm loving it. I'm having a blast. This is what happens when you say no. I'm living proof here. You can do this. You've just got to put your 2 feet down and start walking forward. Because that's the only way you have to go. Don't you dare start walking backwards because it doesn't help you. Forward is the way to go. It's the only way to go. I've heard Big Jack say something similar to this. Mountains and valleys. Got to get through the valley, right? My dad used to tell me, you are on an uphill climb and you are almost to the top. You're ready to coast down the other side. Same concept. You know what? Wise men, both of them. I'm telling you, do for you too. There's balance. You just have to find it. And I think that's one of our biggest problems nowadays. And that's true for anybody, young, old, female, male. I don't do pronouns, sorry. I'm not trying to be offensive, but you know what I'm saying. Anybody, everybody, all bodies, okay, have to go through this because sometimes, like when you first get into a relationship, your first date, you're trying to impress them. So you're doing all this extra, right? Second date, hey, we got a second date. I don't have to impress as much, but I still got to impress, right? Because I don't got the ring yet, right? No, moving right along. And then somewhere down the line, all those neat little extras, and that person is like, well, you used to. Don't give them a reason to say you used to. Be genuine. Be you. Don't be the extra that puts you in the situation to where you can't say no, right? All right. There we go. Not sure what just happened there. It's probably the weather. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's the weather. I can tell you that now. Yeah, it looks like I did. Am I still going though? Anyway, yes, I am. So, okay, trivia. Let's bring this one home. Because this answer deserves its own spotlight. We okay, sorry, I'm checking my TV to make sure that I am going again live. Alrighty. Back to it. This is so fun. Y'all, check out my wordplay. History. All right. I know. I'm dork. I can't help it. Anyway, we talked all day about boundaries, right? About choosing yourself and about owning your voice. And Motown artists knew more about that struggle than any of us. Half the stories from that era are about people who poured their whole soul into a song long before the world ever recognized their name. And that's exactly why today's trivia answer hits a little deeper than usual, before the charts, before the fame, before the cover versions that, took over the airwaves, there was an original voice, a powerhouse voice. Now, I want to encourage y'all before I get into this, y'all put it up there. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, y'all put it up there. Okay. The kind of voice that didn't always get the credit it deserved, but absolutely shaped the sound that came after. And when you listen closely, really closely, you can hear the truth in the texture of that first recording. You can feel the roots of the song before it ever became iconic. So let's take a moment, breathe, settle in, and shine a little light on the woman who carried that melody first, because today's answer belongs to someone whose legacy deserves to be said out loud. Okay? Now, okay, let's see here. Irma Franklin recorded Piece of My Heart in 1967, a full year before Janis made it explode. And her version is nothing like the rock version most people know. Irma's recording wasn't about power or rebellion or gravel-throated heartbreak. Her version is pure soul. You can hear the church in her voice, and I wish I could play it for you, but I didn't want to get in trouble for copyright. But you can hear the church in her voice. You can hear the pain without the screaming, okay? And you can hear every bit of the emotional exhaustion that the lyrics were meant to carry. this song wasn't written as a rock song. It was written as a soul ballad. And it was recorded in the era where heartbreak wasn't shouted, it was confessed. And Irma, she nailed it. That tone so deeply. Oh my gosh, that critics at the time said she sang the pain of every woman that had ever had her heart broken or taken advantage of. So here's where the story gets a little wild though. Irma Franklin's version did well. It even got a Grammy nomination, okay? But because she lived in the shadow of her sister Aretha, she never got the full spotlight she deserved. Her record labels didn't push her, radio stations didn't really support her, and the industry, they kind of treated her like she was always second place. But even though vocally she was a powerhouse in her own right, she toured, she performed, she gave everything she had to get to that song. And then it's like so many women of that era, the world overlooked her contribution. Sad but true. I hate that for her. But then along came Janis Joplin in 1968. She hears Irma's version, falls in love with the raw emotion inside it, and decides not only to, cover it, she decides to transform it. Okay. Janis took Irma's quiet heartbreak and blasted it through an amplifier. She turned it into a scream, a rebellion, and demanded to be heard. And because Janis was part of the exploding rock scene, it was a scene dominated by radio, play festivals, white audiences, and heavy press coverage. Her version skyrocketed. It became the version everyone associated with the song. Janis got the fame, Janis got the history books, Janis got the legacy, but here's the catch. Janis herself always said she didn't do it alone. She gave credit over and over and over to Irma Franklin's original because she knew what she had built on top of. Janis didn't steal it, she amplified it. She made the world pay attention. And later in life, when people rediscovered Irma's original, they finally started giving her the recognition she deserved. The money, the royalties, the respect, it all came late in her life, but it came because Janis unintentionally sent the world back to Irma. So the answer to today's trivia, the song Piece of My Heart didn't start with Janis Joplin at all. It started in the Franklin household, the same household that raised Aretha, Carolyn, and the entire Franklin musical legacy. It started with the soulful woman named Irma Franklin who poured her heart into a microphone long before rock ever touched it. And if you never heard of her version, oh, please do me a favor, go listen, okay? Because that is the sound of a woman giving the world a piece of her heart before anyone ever claimed it. Ever. Seriously. I mean, it is, I love my music history, y'all. All right, let's get me back up here. Silly me, silly me. All righty. So, here we are at the end of the show yet again. Before we close out today's episode, I just want to pull everything we just talked about into a last moment of clarity. Today wasn't just about saying no. It wasn't just about boundaries or family drama or even people who treat your time like it grows on trees. Okay. Today was about something much deeper. Remembering that your life and peace and your energy and time, your mental stability, honey, all of that is precious. And too many of us go our entire lives handing those things away like they don't cost us anything, right? Every yes that you force out of guilt, every favor you agree to because you don't want a fight, every task you take on because no one else will, that chips away at you piece by piece until you're running on fumes and wondering why you feel invisible in a life you're constantly overworking to maintain, right? And for so many people listening right now, that's been the norm for years, maybe decades. So today was about something happier, not happy like sunshine and rainbows, but happy like relief. Okay. Happy like breathing again. Happy like family dropping a burden you've been dragging behind you for so long that you forgot it wasn't supposed to be there. That's the kind of happiness people don't talk about enough. The happiness that comes from taking your life back one boundary at a time. And I know some of you felt that today. I felt that today. Sometimes the joy comes from the tiniest shift, right? Realizing that you don't have to save everyone. You don't have to fix everything. And you most certainly don't have to be the default helper for people who never show up for you the same way. There'll be the option. And yes, it's uncomfortable at first. People will react. Nothing good is ever easy. Some won't like your new normal. But here's the truth you can't ignore. The people who get angry when you say no are the ones who are benefiting from you saying yes. Okay? There comes a point where you look at your life, your responsibilities, your exhaustion, and you decide that you matter too. Your schedule, it matters. Your rest, it matters. Okay? Happiness, boundaries, they all matter. And that tiny shift, that one moment where you say, no, not today, not this time. Thank you for asking. That's the moment your whole direction will change. So if today's show gave you even a spark of permission, a tiny nudge, maybe a reminder that you don't have to carry everybody's everything, then that's the joy I want you to walk away with. Because the more you practice, the easier it becomes. The lighter you feel, the stronger you get. And the people who, oh my goodness, that was some thunder. And the people who are meant to stay in your life, they adjust, they respect it, they adapt to the new version of you, the version who doesn't fold under pressure anymore. So, as we head into the final moments of today's episode, just hold on to that little piece of power you reclaimed today. Let it sit with you, okay? Let it grow. Let it remind you that your life is not a checking account for everyone else to withdraw from. It's yours, your time, your energy, your peace. And today took a piece of it back, okay? And that is worth celebrating. So as we close out Ask a Bee today, this episode was called The Joy of Saying No, okay? I want you to take a breath and sit with everything you felt today because if you're like most people, you've spent years, maybe decades, giving every single part of yourself away until there is nothing left but exhaustion. You've said yes, even when you were tired. Yes, when you were hurting. Yes, when you were overwhelmed. And you know what? Yes, when you were buried under your own responsibilities. And the people around you got so comfortable with your yes that your no started to feel like a betrayal. But that's not your failure. Okay? That's not yours. That's theirs. Because nobody who truly loves you, truly respects you, and truly values you will ever crumble because you finally said, I can't do that today. Today's show wasn't about shutting the world out, okay? It was about finally letting yourself into it. Saying no is not selfish. It's an act of self-preservation. Saying no is you standing on the edge of your own breaking point and deciding not to step off. And the truth is, some of the people who benefited the most from your exhaustion were never going to give you permission to rest because they liked the version of you who never pushed back. They liked the version of you that said yes, even when it cost you peace. Today, in this hour together, I hope you felt something shift. I hope you felt a little spark of power come back into your hands. And I really hope you remember that your time has value, your energy has value, and your boundaries are not up for debate. No one gets unlimited access to you. Not anymore. And here's the thing, the moment you start saying no, your life will get louder. People who were comfortable, take advantage, will push back. People who counted on your silence will question your motives. People who always assumed you drop everything for them will get irritated when you don't. But their reaction is not your responsibility. Don't react. Their disappointment is not your responsibility. You have nothing to be disappointed in but their behavior. Their lack of planning, it's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is you. It's your mental health, your recovery time, your peace, joy, life. And if saying no is what protects it, then no becomes a holy word. Am I right? A necessary healing word, and one that you should never, ever feel guilty for saying. Ever. So as you go into the rest of your day, I want you to carry this truth with you. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are allowed to disappoint people who expect impossible things from you. And you're allowed to rest. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to say, not today, and refuse to feel bad about it. You're allowed to be the gatekeeper of your own life. And you know what? You're also allowed to be happy without apologizing for it. Let today be the day you take a little of your power back, quietly, firmly, but without guilt. And then when the world tries to push you into places you no longer belong, just remember the power of that tiny word and let it roll right off your tongue. No, not today, not anymore, not at the cost of myself. No, thank you for asking. Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for trusting me with your stories and your time. This has been Ask a Bee, and today we learned that saying no is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, protect your peace, honor your energy, and remember, you are worthy. Absolutely. Even when you say nothing but no. Thank you so much, Tuber Chat. Hey, thank you. Thank you. All right, y'all. I'm out of here. I made it. The weather didn't take me. I got to go check on Ozzy. I hope he didn't go outside. Love y'all. Bye.